This is every single fight to make after UFC Vegas 48, Walker versus Hill. I've got all of the key fighters from that card on the screen right now. Some winners, some losers, and you may notice there is an empty box next to all of them, and that's where their next opponent's going to go, who I have hidden around the perimeter of the screen. I'll slowly reveal their opponents one by one as the video goes on, and place them where they belong on the screen, starting with the main event. Jamahal Hill gets a brutal first round KO over Johnny Walker, finishes him with relative ease. He's going to be looking for a quick turnaround. I don't know what to do with Jamahal Hill, so I've sort of settled on Dominick Reyes in the light heavyweight division. It's to jump up the rankings. I understand Dominick Reyes is on a 3-fight losing streak, technically, even though we all know that he beat Jon Jones very clearly. But either way, Phantom 49-46 scorecard saves the day for Jon Jones. Either way, though, Dominick Reyes technically is on a 3-fight losing streak, but realistically, if he loses one more, he's not going to be in the typical position that a guy on a 4-fight losing streak would be on, because we know he beat Jon Jones. So if he loses this one, that's when you start thinking, is he done? His last chance is next up in the light heavyweight division. But to keep the light heavyweight division moving, I think you have to do Jamahal Hill versus Dominick Reyes. Otherwise, they're probably going to do Reyes versus Ozdemir. The only other thing I could possibly see happening, I saw a lot of people mentioning maybe the winner of Craig versus Krylov. But if Craig wins, he said he's coming up to the last year of his career. I doubt he's going to want to waste that last year of his career fighting Jamahal Hill again down the rankings in a rematch, even though he's already beaten him. That makes zero sense. So for me, I reckon they've got to do Dominick Reyes, Jamahal Hill. Maybe if Nikita Krylov beats Dominick Reyes, beats Paul Craig at UFC London, then you would have a matchup for Jamahal Hill, Nikita Krylov versus Jamahal Hill. But for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to randomly... I don't even think Nikita Krylov wins. Actually, I do believe Nikita Krylov wins. Maybe I should have put Nikita Krylov here. But it's between Dominick Reyes and Nikita Krylov. But because we have to wait until the end of March to see what happens with Craig versus Krylov, I think it's better for the purpose of the video to just show Jamahal Hill versus Dominick Reyes. I know it's a rough matchup for Dominick Reyes, but technically, it's a stand-up matchup. 2 boxers. I think it's actually a decent matchup for Dominick Reyes, so I'd like to see that happen next. We'll see what goes down, though, in the light heavyweight division over the next few weeks. Moving on to the loser of the main event. Poor Johnny Walker KO'd in hilarious fashion once again. I saw Mojahed Fudlat just put him in the Ghost Club and stuff, so not looking good for Johnny Walker. So in my opinion, I know this sounds stupid, but he cannot be at light heavyweight anymore. He just can't. He has to move up to heavyweight. I reckon Johnny Walker cuts from about 225, 230 pounds. I reckon he's a 20-pound cutter. 20, 25-pound cutter. He is massive for the division. I don't see how he doesn't weigh more than most other people. I mean, he's like the same height as Jon Jones and not the same build as Jon Jones. Like, he's not as skinny whatsoever. So I'm sure he's cutting over 20 pounds of weight. So why not just bulk up 15 pounds, 240 pound heavyweight, Johnny Walker, maybe your chin will be a little bit better. And if you are going to go to heavyweight, which I believe you should do, I reckon his opponent should be Andrei Arlovski in the heavyweight division, someone who's just outside the rankings, willing to fight anyone, just showing up to get his money's worth at this point in his career. I don't think Andrei Arlovski has any real plans of going towards a world championship and fighting the top guys in the division ever again, because he keeps accepted fights against Jared Vandeera, a guy coming off a loss. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the matchups Arlovski's taken are just like, I think I can win this one. I'll take this matchup, and I won't take too much damage, and I'll get back in there afterwards. So I think Andrei Arlovski, last fight, 3-rounder, didn't take too much damage, but he's going to want a little bit of time off, I'm sure. So whenever he's ready to come back, maybe in the middle of the year, maybe in August, we can do Johnny Walker versus Andrei Arlovski in Johnny Walker's heavyweight debut. And I think that would be a decently well-known name for him to take on in the heavyweight division that could justify putting him quite high up on a card. My opinion. Because the problem is, when you build such a big name like Johnny Walker, he's not a huge name, but he's still a noticeable name. You can't have him on the prelims versus a prelim level fighter. Him versus Andrei Arlovski could be the co-main event of a fight night. It could be the headliner of the prelims of a pay-per-view. That's the position you're looking for Johnny Walker moving forward, and I think he should move up to heavyweight, take on Andrei Arlovski, stop draining himself down to light heavyweight. He'd be an incredibly athletic heavyweight anyway, and Arlovski doesn't seem to have too much power in his hands. Let's be real. So I think Johnny Walker, Andrei Arlovski would be a good welcoming party for him at the heavyweight division. And if he wins that one, he can get a ranked opponent there. And we'll see how that goes. Moving on to another matchup, which was the co-main event. Kyle Daukaus submitted Jamie Pickett in the first round with a Darce choke. The Darce Knight himself gets another Darce to his record. So I think Daukaus' next opponent should probably be Rodolfo Vieira in the middleweight division. Both guys have not earned ranked opponents yet. Rodolfo Vieira recently snapped back, beating Dustin Stoltzfus after a loss that he had to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Daukaus has recently bounced back as well after that no contest to Kevin Holland. Either way, he wasn't on a losing streak or anything like that, but he's on a win now. They're both on one win in a row, so I think they should fight each other. And also, I think it's a good submission matchup as well. Daukaus is good on the feet. Vieira's okay on the feet. He looks somewhat improved. This would be a good testing fight to see just where each fighter is, because something that we saw in Daukaus' game against Brendan Allen was incredible submission defense and scrambling and being able to keep himself safe on the ground on short notice against Brendan Allen. So the fact that I want to put him against Rodolfo Vieira is mainly because I want to see how he does under submission threats against Rodolfo Vieira. I want to see how he does on the feet against a big, powerful man in Rodolfo Vieira and an actual good middleweight contender. So I think they're perfect for each other. They're right there next to each other. Vieira can prove that he can submit guys even with good grappling games themselves. And maybe Daukaus can prove that he can submit guys with, or not submit guys, but they can survive a good submission expert and maybe show good cardio and survivability as a fight goes on. Great matchup, though, in the middleweight division. Let's make it happen. Parker Porter got a win in the feature fight. This card was so bad that this is what we're breaking down. The feature fight winner, Parker Porter. No idea what's happened to the UFC. But here we are, Alexander Romanov. I was originally going to do Alexander Romanov versus Andrei Arlovski, but fuck it. I've changed my mind. Get over it. Johnny Walker versus Andrei Arlovski and Parker Porter versus Alexander Romanov. What has happened to this sport? I thought 2021 was the best year ever in the sport's history, and these cards are what we're getting. Porter versus Romanov in the heavyweight division sounds like a decently okay matchup to me. I'd like to see it. Romanov needs one more win against a decent prospect or a decent contender in Parker Porter before he can move into the rankings. I think they represent that for each other. So I think Romanov test out the grappling of Parker Porter, because Parker Porter showed good grappling against Alan Badeau. So I think he should show, has he got good grappling enough to stop a great grappler like Alexander Romanov? And just how good is the grappling of Alexander Romanov as well? I'd like to find out. Moving on to another fight on the card. Jim Miller got a big win in the main card slot of the fight card against Nicholas Motta by second round KO. Big win for a veteran, and I think his next opponent should be, and I saw this actually recommended in some of the Instagram comments and stuff like that, Nazra Akbar. I think is a great opponent for him in the lightweight division. Both lightweights. Akbar fought recently. Miller's not going to want to be too active. I imagine Miller's going to be looking to come back around August and then maybe try and get one before the end of the year. So I reckon July, August is probably when Miller's going to be looking to get back in there. I don't see him turning around 3 months from now. So Nazrat took a lot of damage a couple of weekends ago. He's going to need some time off. So around July, August is probably when he's going to want to return as well. So I think Jim Miller versus Nazra Akbar is a great matchup in the lightweight division. And it's not like you're feeding Jim Miller to the wolves, because it's kind of like a, let's see where either of these guys are. Is Nazrat really good at all? Or is he just complete garbage like the rest of the lightweights that lose to Jim Miller? We'll see how it goes. Jim Miller, is he improving? Can he beat like a capable lightweight, not just some up-and-comer that doesn't have the experience? Nazrat's been in there with some big names. He's lost to the big names, I understand that. But this would be a good, real, like, decider of just where these guys are in the lightweight division. Is Nazrat better than the bottom feeders? Or is Jim Miller actually still a viable threat in the lightweight division? That's what this tells me. So I think that's a great matchup to make. Jim Miller, Nazra Akbar, do it in July or August, make that shit happen. And also on the main card, in the opening slot of the main card, Joaquin Buckley got a big win against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and he's in the middleweight division as well. I was going to do Joaquin Buckley versus Daukaus, but I didn't like that matchup, so I thought I'd go with a more fun matchup that I think is going to be in a good position on the Fight Night card because of the name value both of them have. Joaquin Buckley versus Roman Dolidze in the middleweight division. Roman Dolidze doesn't have a matchup right now at middleweight. Looking for a matchup. Joaquin Buckley didn't take too much damage until that third round, I guess, where it was almost a 10-8. So he did take quite a bit of damage. But Dolidze's out. Joaquin Buckley's out. Let's turn them both back around. International Fight Week pay-per-view prelims. Open up the prelims with Joaquin Buckley versus Roman Dolidze. That's a good position to be in, and I think both of them would put on an amazing fight, and they both do great things. Maybe Roman Dolidze just holds him against a cage, but I think Joaquin Buckley, at least for the first 2 rounds of this fight, showed very good grappling improvements, so I think it'll be a great matchup to see just where the grappling of Joaquin Buckley has come, and also how good the stand-up of Roman Dolidze is getting, because he does get clipped a lot in his fights, hurt by Trevin Giles. He's on a 1-fight win streak. Buckley's on a 2-fight win streak now, I believe, in his career. They both need 1 more before they start looking for big names just outside the rankings, or maybe even at the bottom of the rankings. I like this matchup for that very reason. Joaquin Buckley, Roman Dolidze, similar fighters in similar positions in their career, and I think they should take on each other for that very reason, and similar schedules. Moving on up the card, or down the card even, David Onama, featherweight prospect, got a big win over Gabriel Benitez by first round TKO. Brutal first round KO as well. Very, very impressive. I think his next matchup in the featherweight division should be Charles Rosa. Kill Charles Rosa. We murder Charles Rosa. We don't do that though. But I like the matchup. Charles Rosa. No one's really going to want to fight David Onama, really. He's a dangerous prospect. A lot of people have known about him for a while. I've known about him for a while. I don't think there's going to be many people willing to be like, oh, I'll take him on, that are on a win streak of their own. So I think David Onama, Charles Rosa. The main reason I'm saying Charles Rosa is because he's on a losing streak right now. But he's still somewhat good. You know what I mean? He's still somewhat capable enough to put up decent fights against certain fighters. So I'd like to test how good the grappling is of David Onama. And I think he should go in there against Charles Rosa, because if he can destroy Charles Rosa in the first round, people don't destroy Charles Rosa. So if David Onama does that, it'll be very, very impressive. And I think it'll tell us a lot about him. And I also think Charles Rosa's in a position right now where he's lucky to even be offered another fight in the UFC. He's an older guy on a losing streak. He'll be lucky to even get a contract. He'll be lucky that they don't even cut him in the first place, because he's literally of no use to them whatsoever. So for a guy like him with no negotiation power right now, I think you say, hey, we weren't going to give you another chance, but we'll give you another chance even though you're 50. But it's against David Onama. Take it or leave it. And he'll probably say, I'll take it. So I think that's what you do. For a guy that not many people are going to be eager to fight, you take someone with no negotiation power and offer it to them, because they're in a much more desperate position to take those kind of fights. So Charles Rosa, David Onama, great matchup in my opinion at the featherweight division, and if he wins that one, he can start looking at Gavin Tuckers and Billy Quarantillos and those kind of names that are just outside the rankings. Moving on up the card, or down the card, again, Stephanie Egger got a big win over Jessica Rose Clark by easy armbar in the first round. Very good win from her. I think she should be looking to take on Julia Avila in the bantamweight division. They're both just outside the rankings. I believe Julia Avila might actually be just inside the rankings. I'm not too sure, but that's the matchup I want to see. Julia Avila's got decent stand-up, decent grappling as well, pretty well-rounded. And I'll see if Stephanie Egger can beat her. They're both older girls as well, so you only really want one of them in the division. Both of them over 30, I believe. So keep one of them around, lose one of the old baggage, and then move forward with the winner into the rankings of the bantamweight division. But I think that's a good matchup. They're both going to be looking to fight quite soon. Egger took no damage. She wants to get right back in there. Avila's free right now, so I think in about 3 months' time, they could make that matchup happen. Maybe in June, maybe in May. We'll see how it goes. Stephanie Egger versus Julia Avila, and we move on to another fight. Chad Anheliger got a big win on the card against Jesse Strader by third round TKO. He was in a bit of a scrap himself. Another guy who was in a scrap on that very same card a couple of nights ago, or last night, sorry, was Mario Batista. Got into a very good 3-round scrap with Perrin. Yeah, it was a decent scrap for both of them. So they both took a little bit of damage. They're probably going to be on similar schedules. Anheliger's a bit older, so he's not going to be looking to waste too much time. And Mario Batista's a young guy, wants to stay active, didn't take too much damage. So I think 4 months' time, bring them both back around. International Fight Week early prelims. Chad Anheliger versus Mario Batista. That could go down quite well. And I think it'd be a great bantamweight matchup as well. And the winner of that one can start looking at some more noticeable names in the bantamweight division. But that's all of the matchups to make after UFC Vegas 48. It wasn't the most stacked card in the world, but that's just what we're getting given nowadays, because the UFC hates their fan base and wants to punish us with weak cards. But that's okay. Let's see how it goes moving forward. Can't wait for Lemos versus Andrade to main event a fight night for 5 rounds. Yay. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.